Matthew here from miniwargaming.com, and it's time for another sit and talk. Pardon, once again, the mess behind me. Still getting more boxes of models, been doing battle reports all week long. I know, you're feeling really sorry for me right now. And so I haven't had a chance to clean my office, but it's got to get this done. We got 9 pages of comments, so I might actually be able to get through all of the comments today. Because I can get through 10 pages of comments depending on the severity of them. But we'll see. Sometimes I only get through like 4 or 5 pages if we end up taking a lot of time on some of them. And that's just the way the show goes. You go ahead and leave your comments and questions in the comment section below, unless you're watching this on YouTube, in which case click the link in the video description to go watch it there. I answer questions about anything. So be warned, the topic of religion and politics could come up. So if you're easily offended by those, please don't watch. Now, the more in-depth religious discussions I reserve for another show, which I haven't made the first episode of yet. I've been really busy at home, but I do want to start. I want to kind of churn out a bunch of the episodes of that. So I will give you a link. I've had people asking me the link to that, but it hasn't started yet. So hopefully by next week I'll have some episodes up for those of you who are interested. Otherwise, just going to start going through all the questions. I think that's all the preamble. Let's start. Captain Obvious. And of course, the first few questions are the top-rated questions, and then the rest are random. Matt, new out today is a narrative campaign by Games Workshop that says it's one of their many that are going to be made. I know, I saw that, the Red Wog one. I was very excited about it. Sounds too good timing to me to be linked in with the popularity of your campaigns. Do you think it's entirely possible Games Workshop saw how well you were doing with them and decided to use their idea to make more money? And if they did use your ideas, do you feel more flattered or annoyed? I think it might be the former, but I want to ask anyway. Smiley face. Well, while it does seem good timing, Games Workshop's production schedule is a little longer than that. Now, there is always a possibility that they saw the success of these campaigns and they thought, hey, we love narrative campaigns too. We should do some books about this. But I doubt it. I highly doubt it. We only started putting out campaigns in the past 3 months. Not even, like we're on the 3rd campaign right now, and they're 6 weeks long. Oh, ignore the construction work. That's our next studio being renovated right now. So that's 6 weeks long each, times that by 3, that's 18 weeks. So I guess we've been putting them out for almost 5 months. So it's possible, but I doubt it. Usually they know what they're going to be doing at least 6 months ahead of time, probably more like a year ahead of time. So I don't think so. However, if we make the assumption that they did, to answer your question, would I be more flattered or annoyed? I'm definitely more flattered. I would not be annoyed at all. Why would I be annoyed if they come out with more supplements? I love supplements. We just keep pumping them out. I'm kind of sad. We were just talking about this morning, that the Tyrannid's got like 3 data slates full of formations, and hardly anybody else has gotten that. And I'm really confused as to why. Maybe they weren't that successful, or maybe they really were putting them out to patch the Tyrannid Codex. I'm not quite sure the reason, but I love them. And I wish that all the other armies had access to a lot of them. Now I know the other armies have access to supplements, like the Black Legion supplement or the Iandin supplement, but they're not the same. It's just not the same thing. So I like lots of supplements. The more supplements they put out, the more ways they give you to play the game, and that's good. It's better than just being like, unbound, play it however you want, go. They need to still give you a lot of structure so that you can have some sort of benchmark, something to work from. So definitely wouldn't be annoyed at all. But I don't think that they would have been influenced by us. There's like this tiny, tiny little chance that there would have been like, hey, those are good. Hey, we've been kind of thinking of doing this anyways, let's do it. But I really don't think so. Slop Artist. All right. Easy religious question. In your opinion, could God microwave a burrito so hot that even he would burn the roof of his mouth? That's totally sacrilegious, and yet I laugh. I don't know. I don't think so, because I've heard questions like that, like, you know, if you're, I guess the concept of all-powerful doesn't mean that you can do anything. If you understand, like, it's all-powerful within the laws of nature. Like, he still has to adhere to whatever the laws of, and we're discovering more and more of those laws, and we're describing them, and that's what we call the theories of physics and the laws of physics and stuff, or biology and everything else. So considering a being is all-knowing, you know, let's assume that there's a being who knows every law of nature and understands it all and knows how to manipulate it all however he wants within the laws, then there are still restrictions of what they can and cannot do. And so that's why questions like that, and I know it was just a joke, and so don't worry, I'm not taking any offense or taking it seriously, but it is an interesting question if you think about it. If you have a being like who is a God, who's all-knowing and all-powerful, so basically knows everything and is capable of all power, but there's still, what is all power? There's still kind of an upper limit to what that means. It's not so much an upper limit as it is like there's still boundaries, there's still laws that he has to follow. It doesn't work by magic, doesn't snap his finger and things happen. So I guess the answer to that question would be no. He wouldn't be able to microwave a burrito so hot that he could even he would burn the roof of his mouth. Because, yeah, I guess not. It's a funny question though. Crandall87. Hello Matthew, I'm a big fan of your sit and talks and mini wargaming in general. Thank you. I've been a Vault member for over a year now and I'm loving it. That's awesome. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Anyway, onto my question. I also work in the miniature wargaming industry and was wondering if you've had any awkward or frustrating experiences when it comes to explaining what you do for a living. I asked this as I recently met with my new girlfriend's parents for the first time last week, and when it came to explaining that I sell plastic parts for Warhammer 40k miniatures for a living, they gave me a bit of a blank stare. I am used to this kind of reaction, especially when people don't know what Warhammer is. I've also had a lot of common questions such as, do a lot of people play that? Or do you make enough money doing that? Have you had any similar experiences yourself, especially now that you don't have the store, or have you found yourself explaining to people what Warhammer is? It would be nice to know that I'm not alone. That happens all the time. When we had the store, it was a little easier because you have to understand, when people ask you what you do for a living, there's various levels of interest. It's kind of like if somebody asks any of your political views or religious views, sometimes they're just asking and they just want a quick answer. Or sometimes people say, hey, how's it going? Sometimes they actually care and they want more than it's fine, everything's good. Because a lot of times you're like, hey, how's it going? If somebody says, not so well, you're like, oh crap, now I gotta like continue this conversation when it was meant to just be in passing. And so you have to kind of come up with an answer that is quick. And then if they're actually interested, it allows them to answer questions. Like for example, when we had the store, even though this isn't 100% accurate to say, I'd say, well, I own a hobby retail store. That's what I would say. That's all I would say. And then sometimes that would be it. They wouldn't ask any more questions. Like, oh, okay. And they just weren't that interested. They were just kind of asking it out of, I don't even know what, a conversational piece or something. But sometimes they'll ask more, like, oh, hobby, what kind of hobby? And then they would usually throw out some example that's way off. And that's when I try to go into explaining miniature wargaming, and that was always hard. Like little soldiers and you play a game. It's like a really advanced board game. I've kind of refined how I talk about it. But then we got rid of the store, and now all of a sudden when I go to explain my business, it's like we make videos about miniature wargaming. That sums it up right there, but it's hard to explain. So when it comes to how I explain my business to people now, it's like, well, we have a YouTube channel, and we make videos about miniature wargaming. And I'm like, and I asked, do you know what Warhammer is or miniature wargaming? Most of the time the answer is no. I'm like, okay, think of a hobby like crocheting. Now picture that there's a YouTube channel out there that has videos that show you how to crochet, they show people crocheting, they cover crocheting events. That's what we do, but for this hobby. And then that's usually like, oh, okay. And then usually the next question is, and you can make money from that? And that's when I'm like, well, we also have a membership site. It's kind of like Netflix for wargamers. It's just the easiest thing to explain. It's not actually like, it's kind of like Netflix. You have a monthly amount and there's videos that you have access to, but Netflix is an aggregate of, they license out and get tons of other people's content, whereas it's all our own content. And there are some Netflix originals, but that's not why people buy Netflix. At least not the majority of people. And so it is hard because not only is this a different kind of business model that people aren't used to because it's a relatively new business model, but we're also covering a hobby that most people don't know anything about. But if you run a store and you have them, and at least you have the store part, you can be like, well, I run a hobby store, or I work in a hobby store. That kind of thing. So yeah, it's hard. Necronomicon. Hey Matt, there's been something I've been meaning to ask you for a long time, but have always forgotten to ask you. Why do you not have what I think of as a Canadian accent? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yes. It's kind of hard to replicate just with text. You mean like the about? I'm going about. Hey, you hoser, I'm about to go. Like that kind of thing. I can't even do it 100%. Is that way of speaking unique to a particular region of Canada, or is it just because you live close to the US border? Yes and yes. The typical Canadian accent that you hear in like, there's that old movie, Canadian Bacon, where it's like, hey, how's it going, hoser? Oh, I can't even do it. I can't even do it right. Chris, Can you give me an example so I can imitate it?
Take off, eh?
Take off, eh? No, that's not. I didn't even do it right. I sounded more like Irish or something. Take off, eh? You hockey hoser. I can't even do it. Anyway, it's kind of typical to a region, Eastern Canada. Although if you go really eastern in some of the places, they sound almost Irish because, well, a lot of them are from Ireland. But I mean, like generations after. You go more up north. You get more to the remote areas, like up north in Ontario. I know that people sound a lot more like typical Canadian. But yeah, it is a regional accent. Canada, I was about to call it Canada. Canada is a rather large country, and so it's basically like it's huge. It's humongous. It's huge. It's like a watermelon on a toothpick. Name that movie. Anybody here name that movie?
What?
I just quoted a movie. It's huge. It's like a watermelon on a toothpick.
No idea.
Oh, it's So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a part of it where he's like, his head is huge. It's like a watermelon on a toothpick. And then the guy was there, and apparently I don't remember most of the movie. And actually, I don't even know if I've seen the movie. I just remember that quote. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. And then he's like, maybe I went too far. Now he's going to go cry himself to sleep on his huge pillow. Some movies are just funnier to quote, like Monty Python. Way funnier to quote than to actually watch. I remember my very first experience watching Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail. And I was very disappointed. I watched it by myself first off. That was the first mistake. And I already knew the entire movie because I'd heard so many quotes that I had pretty much heard the entire movie. The second time I watched it, I just couldn't stop laughing because then I knew what to expect. So anyway, back to your question, Canada is a humongous country, and so we're all sorts of accents. We're close to the border, but that actually has less impact on our accent than you might think, because the moment I cross the border, I hear a different in accents. It's just like night and day. That border really is a cultural divide. As much as Americans and Canadians are very similar in culture, there's a lot of differences too. So you cross the border and immediately you hear a different accent. Now it's not like going down south where you hear a huge difference, or we went to Georgia once and you could hear that Georgian accent. But there is a noticeable difference. So it's definitely regional. And so that the one that you typically think of Canadian is not from where I am around here. PatRat123, Matt, I've wondered this for a while and feel free not to answer, but is Jay a legitimate kleptomaniac? I don't think so. I know he likes for fun to go around stealing people's stuff, but I've never actually seen him steal stuff for real. So you have to ask him. And go ask him on his channel. Say, Jay, are you a legitimate kleptomaniac? And I'm sure he'll answer. He'll be happy to answer that. Black Orc Down. Did you hear about the dyslexic agnostic insomniac? He used to lie awake at night wondering if there was a dog. I've heard that one before. I think it's funny. Hey Matt, a new program is being aired in the UK called Meet the Mormons. It's a documentary style. Can you access it in Canada? I don't know. I haven't heard of it. If so, could you give it a watch and give me your opinion on it? No. Not that I guess I'm just not interested. It's not because I just don't have time, sorry. Given the frequency of Games Workshop releasing supplements, maybe these are just supplements you seek to help with your sleep issues. Oh, haha. I get it. I think. I don't think I actually get it. You got me. I used to lie awake at night wondering if there's a dog. I'm lost. Sorry. Matt Fern. Hi Matthew. As a big fan of mini wargaming from the UK, have you ever considered franchising the business brand to other parts of the world to not only open up access to countries which speak other languages, but also increase the content on your site? Well, it wouldn't be a franchise. A franchise is where it would be independently run, but with certain rules, and we would collect some sort of franchising fee. I wouldn't do that. If we were to open up other branches, I guess right now that's not the easiest way for us to expand. You have to kind of look at it as when a business wants to expand, they need to expand to the area of highest profitability and lowest expense. For example, creating the second studio is an expansion. We're expanding mini wargaming because it allows us to make more videos. It's the cheapest way to do it because all it does is require us to shuffle around our space and spend a bit of money renovating a room that we already are paying for. That's an expansion. Another way to expand is to hire more employees. That gets more videos. So another way to expand our audience would be to start covering other games, because there's a lot of games out there. So there's all sorts of ways to expand. We're now doing different kinds of content, selling different kinds of products. So opening up a branch in the UK or in other countries in Europe where they would be speaking other languages, that would be a very hard way to expand, because not only would I not be able to tell the quality of the videos because I wouldn't understand anything they're saying, but there's the logistics of trying to find people that would be able to do it. So maybe eventually that'll be an area that'll make sense for us to expand into, because I do know that there's a large European audience, at least for Warhammer, because we can see that in their public statements, and a lot of those are not English speaking. So there is a market out there for the French, the German, the Spanish, and some other big ones as well, I'm sure. And that eventually might make sense for us to go into. But right now, we're so small that there's so many other areas that we can expand into. We can, even the areas within the game of Warhammer 40K that we can expand and cover more battle reports and more armies and more narrative campaigns and more tutorials and more tactica, more news, so many ways that we can increase the interest level of people wanting to watch mini wargaming. So it's there. It's a thought. The thought of branching out is there, but I don't think will happen anytime soon. Dizzy Wish. Hey Matt, love the campaigns and bat reps. On to my question, sorry. With a second studio, are you going to try and make more Warhammer fantasy videos? Not yet. I will admit to that right away. Not yet. The purpose of this is just because Dave and I are making so many videos with narrative campaigns and battle reports and everything else, and now Joel making War Machine videos, that we're just like this week alone, if everything had gone according to plan, there would have been 8 days of battle reports. But we only have 5 days in the studio, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so there just wouldn't be enough space. And so we need the second studio in order to do more. Like yesterday, we actually both were making battle reports at the same time. So that's more what we're using it for. Crownblade. Hi Matt, with the rumors of the new edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle continuing to haunt the forums and internet, I was wondering what, apart from turning down the randomness of the magic phase, would you wish for in a new edition of Fantasy? You know what? The magic phase is the part that bothers me the most. Because that's actually what I don't like that they did with 7th edition, making the psychic phase. I don't mind there being a psychic phase, but making it kind of harder to get the psychic stuff off and a little more random. I'm not a big fan of that. What is it about Fantasy that I don't like as much as 40K? I think it's hard to say, because I would say like the whole movement tray aspect, but I also love that because it's like, hey, I got 50 guys, I moved them, I'm done. And then you have a fight, and it's just so easy to kind of keep track of everything. And so I remember I do enjoy Fantasy. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like Warhammer Fantasy. Warhammer 40K has a certain factor. I think it's a combination of the lore and the game itself and the flexibility of being able to kind of play it however I want, that movement trays don't give you. Like, if you want to play a small game of Fantasy, you're still bringing everything in little regiments. And so it just feels still too regimented, if that makes sense. Like, if I was playing a small skirmish game of Fantasy, I'd want all the models to kind of be able to move freely, because it kind of represents that they're not all in this huge battle formation. Fantasy to me is like every game is an epic battle, whereas 40K you can have small skirmishes up to epic battles. I know that there's some fantasy rules, I can't remember what it's called. It's not Mordheim, but there's actually like the ways to play it smaller, but it's still using the trays. But it just feels a little more restrictive. And also I love science fiction. That's also another big thing. I love sci-fi. And so that doesn't mean we're not going to cover fantasy. Don't be disheartened by that. It just means that I'm not going to be totally huge into fantasy, but there's going to be other people that we're hopefully eventually going to hire that will do fantasy videos. We're not looking for it right now, but we will eventually want it, because it's an obvious expansion, right? Expansion of our business to cover the fantasy market, because it is a big market. So what would I want changed in fantasy? Well, I wouldn't want the movement tray thing changed, because it's kind of it's kind of part of the brand. It's kind of part of that game. That game is all about movement trays and whatever it is. So I don't mind the game the way it is, to be honest. Maybe to actually include a supplement rules on how to play it without movement trays. Just like a smaller, like a supplement that lets you, like a kill team supplement kind of thing, but not kill team level, like still like a 500 point level kind of thing that they give you rules for. They actually give new movement rules and new shooting rules and new assault rules that allow you to play it in smaller levels. Because fantasy, unlike 40K, does scale up nicely because you just bring bigger regiments, and then they move just as quickly. Like 100 skeleton warriors move just as quickly as 10 skeleton warriors. It takes longer to set up, but once they're set up, it's just there. I moved it, and you're done. And that's what I love about it. So fantasy is great for epic-sized battles. So I guess maybe just having it work for small games as well would be nice. The Magic phase needs a total overhaul. I think it's way too random and too overpowered in areas and underpowered in other areas. So it's just kind of weird. Crownblade again. Hi Matt, I was wondering if you allow people to use minis from other companies in your battle reports besides those made for the specific game you're playing. Definitely, as long as it represents it well. So it needs to kind of look like what you're looking for. Mexicant DPS. Hey Matt, thanks for answering my question last week. My question is, what's your answer to Wave Serpent spam? My friend loves bringing 3 to 4 of them, and as a Tyranid player, I find them a bit hard to deal with. Again, thanks for answering. Wave Serpent spam is hard. Tyranids still don't have a really good answer to a lot of armor. They have definitely more answers to it now than they ever did before. But what it comes down to is now that now especially since the smash rule got nerfed, and makes them even less effective. So basically, Trigons and Hive Tyrants are no longer nearly as good at taking on vehicles, whereas Carnifexes are just as fine. They're just as good because they're already base strength, and you can easily make them strength 10 armor bane with their crushing claws. So really, Carnifexes are your only anti-vehicle, but they're not hard to kill. They're just toughness 6, 3+ armor, which is not hard for an Eldar player to take out. So what's the answer? I guess what I would do is, if you don't mind a longer game, is you just bring a lot of Gaunts. You bring lots of Hormagaunts, lots of Termagants, and that way it's just like, yeah, he might have Wave Serpents, but especially if you're playing tactical objectives, this is your other response to it, is make sure you're playing tactical objectives and Maelstrom missions. Because it really changes it. No longer does the guy with the overwhelming firepower win the game. It's now the person who can control the table the most that wins the game. And so Tyranids are really good at that because they can have lots of guys, and you can spawn more guys, and you can keep your guys alive, and you can hide them. You can use your venom throats to keep certain things alive, and you can grab more objectives and achieve more things that way. So that would be it. Just kind of ignore the Wave Serpents to a point. Obviously, Hive Guard, Zone Thropes, Carnifexes in close combat will be able to take them on, but that's going to be a tough battle for you. So just consider how you can take the table, take control of the table, and use lots of troops with objectives secured, so your primary and allied detachments, or sorry, your combined arms detachment and your allied detachment, although you don't do allied detachment. So just make sure you have, if you're playing tactical objectives, most of the time you're going to want a combined arms detachment with that. And that way you can really grab those objectives and get those points. And then even if he's wiping you out, you still have a lot of points. So that would be my answer. Peter Gooding. Hi Matt, do you think that Games Workshop will ever introduce a new army or race into the world of 40K? I think it's unlikely. I think you might see new Space Marine chapters or new Imperium stuff, but a new Xenos race, I doubt it. Just because they've got so many to kind of work with right now, that I think that to move away from that and to have another race introduced, unless it's like a sub-race of a current race, would not be something they'd want to do. From a business point of view, in your opinion, would this be a good idea, or do you think it would cost too much money? I think it'd be hard, because a new race would create new interest, especially if they can kind of cover some sort of niche that they're not currently covering. But the problem with it is that then it spreads their resources even further, and so then they can't support the existing races, which a lot of people are buying. And so that's why I say that Imperium is more likely to get new chapters and stuff, because so many of their sales are the Imperium stuff, Space Marines and Imperial Guard. Then it makes sense for them to make new stuff within that. So that's what I think there. I've heard opinions from both sides of the fence on this one. I guess the only other question would be, what would they be? And I had no idea. Ed Markle. Hey Matthew, you could always travel in a conduit of light. Like in, oh, what's that one? Oh, what's that movie? K-Pax. Yes. Though I don't think the NIDs would be allowed. Ed. I'm not sure. They could travel in light. Just light NIDs. Venom 22290. Hey Matt, do you think you will ever make a video showing all of your Necrons like you did with your Tyranids? Sure. No idea when, but yeah, I think that'll eventually happen in my lifetime. Being a huge Necron collector player fan, I would love to see what your army does and does not have. Still, it's actually lacking a lot of things still. Well, maybe not. Yeah, there's still quite a few things that I need more of. I need the Stalkers. I need Flayed Ones. I need. Well, I guess I represent pretty much everything they have to offer except for those two things, and some of the Forest World stuff, of course. But I need more of certain things. That's for sure. Ice Cool. Hi Matt, it's Ice Cool from Norway again. I thought it was funny that you thought Norway equals Ice Cool last time we spoke. Didn't think of that making the nick. I agree that Star Wars The Old Republic game is strange because it's easy to kill a Jedi, like you said. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I almost finished my Stormtrooper army for the 501st Legion. Have you heard of them? A charity group worldwide with movie-accurate costumes. If you accept pictures, I'll send you a picture of my armor when it's done. I'm a Vault member, of course, and loving it. Thanks, Mini Wargaming. I haven't heard of that, although then when you explain it, that does sound vaguely familiar. You can always send pictures, sure. Yeah, it's tough. The Star Wars fluff just kind of goes all around, which just makes it a little harder to like. Baby Smurf 22. Hey Matt, I've been a Vault member for a couple months, and it's awesome. Values. I really like to support you guys. Thank you. Now I have two questions that are completely unrelated. First, can the Carnifex and Hive Tyrant take 2 biocannons, such as 2 heavy venom cannons or 2 Stranglehorn cannons? No. I'm like 99.9% sure of that. And I got my iPad here because I remember that changing. I think that changed a while ago. But it's been so long since I've even thought about doing that now I wonder. So I'm going to open up the trusty Tyranid Codex, which will answer that. So we have Hive Tyrant may take items from the monstrous biocannons. A model may replace any pair of Scything Talons with one of the following. Oh, right here. 1 per model. A model cannot have both a Stranglehorn cannon and a heavy venom cannon. There is your answer. So it can't have... Oh, but you're asking, can it take 2 of them? Now that is an interesting question. It can't have one and the other, but it could have 2 of the same one, because he has 2 pairs of Scything Talons, and a model may replace any pair of Scything Talons with one of the following. That's a good question. Because it would be cool to have 2 Stranglehorn cannons. Or Stranglethorn cannons. I keep calling it Stranglehorn. But Stranglethorn. All this time, didn't see that T. I don't know the answer to that. And I'm guessing, I know the FAQ doesn't have an answer to that because I've read the Tyranid FAQ and it didn't mention anything about that. In Army Builder, which is not the definitive answer because it's just volunteers that have created it, can you have both? Or can you have 2? Yeah, see, in Army Builder, it says replace 1 Scything Talons with one of those. It doesn't let you take 2. So I don't know. I actually, the wording is once again Games Workshop style, not unambiguous. So it's ambiguous. You definitely can't have 1 of each. Could you have 2 of the same? I think my ruling would be no. Just from the wording's weird, but it just seems that the intent there is that you can't. But obviously, that's the argument of rules as written and rules as intended. I've never seen anybody try to bring 2 of either of those. It's always been like heavy venom cannon and like twin-link death spitters or devourers or whatever. So I would play it as no, but I can see how it's a little ambiguous there. Second question: can you provide a link to your new show? I am Christian myself, I am Southern Baptist, but I think the differences in denominations are very interesting, especially Mormonism, since it's so different. Not that it is bad. Thank you very much for answering if you do. And I already did answer that, so hopefully that by next week I'll have a link for you. Angst03. Hi Matt, I joined the Vault 3 to 4 weeks ago and I really enjoy it. Thank you. I would like your thoughts on the Warhammer 40k 7th edition rules for grenades in close combat. My friend and I are arguing if every model in the unit can use their grenades in close combat or only one. The answer is yes. They all can use it in close combat. They can only, in the shooting phase, you can only throw one of them. Now I know you put the rules here. Yeah, so only 1 grenade of any type can be thrown by a unit per phase. Hold on. So if we open up the main rules, and we look for grenades, see now I'm doubting it. Whenever, and this is how I play. Every time one player, oops, slowed it down a little bit. Every time one player doubts the rule, even just a little bit, we look it up. Not, and especially because we record our battle reports, to make sure. I'm not suggesting that you do that, but it is how we play. So I'm used to having to look up. What the heck? Oh, there we are. Weapons. Tell me grenades are here. I wish I had my paper rule book handy. It would be faster for me to get it. Dang it. Search. Tell me the search function works well. Grenade. Oh, special rules, grenades. Okay, so here we go. So let's see. A model can use such a grenade as a melee weapon, but can only ever make one attack, regardless of the number of attacks on its profile or any bonuses. Only one grenade of any type can be thrown by a unit per phase. Only one grenade of any type can be thrown by a unit per phase. That's a good question. When the unit armed... Yeah, see, it says specifically shooting, like crack grenades. Shooting. When a unit armed with crack grenades makes a shooting attack, one model can choose to throw a grenade rather than using another shooting weapon. So I think that sentence is only one grenade of any type can be thrown by a unit per phase. So what it's saying is that you can't mix types. Only one type can be thrown. It's not saying... I can see how the wording there sounds weird, because it's like only one grenade can be thrown by a unit per phase. But what it's actually saying is one grenade of any type. Now the problem is they put the of any type in parentheses, which makes it look like, because if you have parentheses, you should be able to remove the parentheses and still have a sentence. So now it's only one grenade can be thrown by a unit per phase. And but the thing is, then it actually specifies for crack grenades that when shooting it, you cannot, that you can only have one guy throw it. Only one guy can choose to throw it. Yeah, see, in haywire grenades, when a unit armed with haywire grenades makes a shooting attack, one model can choose. So the fact that they specify in the shooting that only one model can do it is kind of my confirmation that all can do it in the assault. So it's bad wording, but I would say 100%, definitely, in the close combat phase, all models that are armed with the grenades can choose to replace all of their attacks with one grenade attack. But I can see the confusion. Chose on one. Matt, I feel like I should defend Star Wars, but I can't think of a logical way to do so. I will say that the Old Republic games are set a few thousand years ago, before the original movies, so the large amount of Jedi can be explained that way. I can't explain why Jedi are always getting wasted by some punk with a blaster, though, except for cinematic drama. Anyway, I've seen your playthroughs of Space Hulk and Minecraft and enjoyed them. But do you ever play games just for your own fun? If so, what kind? Oh yeah, I'm definitely a computer gamer. I'm like so much so that I have to be careful because I play them too much. Games that I've played recently: XCOM, Enemy Unknown, spectacularly awesome game. It's a turn-based tactical strategy game, and that might not sound fun because it's turn-based, but it is tremendously awesome. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Other games I've played: StarCraft 2, mostly the single player, not really multiplayer. The original StarCraft and Brood War, I played a lot of multiplayer a long time ago when I was a teenager. Other games I've enjoyed. Well, let's see, all I have to do is open up Steam, and I can see all the different ones. There's an indie game called Faster Than Light that somebody had suggested, I think on one of my sit and talks, and I really enjoyed that. Let's see, let's go through this. Oh, the Batman series, all the Arkham series stuff, those are all fantastic. I liked Counter-Strike. Crisis, those ones I've enjoyed. I haven't played Crisis 3 yet. I heard it wasn't as good. Oh, absolutely love the Elder Scrolls series. Started playing it at Morrowind. Loved Morrowind. Liked Oblivion. Absolutely love Skyrim. I put too many hours into that. The Half-Life series. I'm wondering where Half-Life 3 is, that's for sure. I loved those. The Total War series I've enjoyed. My favorite one so far has been Shogun 2. I enjoyed Rome. But Rome 2 I didn't really get into, but Shogun 2 I really liked. And let's see, that's all of them right there that are on my Steam. So those are the ones I really liked. I've played other games too, but those are the ones all the ones I really enjoyed. I actually really enjoyed Crisis 1 and Crisis 2. So I like those. I'm not usually a first-person shooter kind of player. I'm more like strategy games or role-playing games. Love role-playing games. Can't wait for the next Elder Scrolls, not the MMO. So. Preeb So Preebs. Hey Matt, been a Vault member for a while, and for the most part I love it. Thank you. However, sometimes it feels like some of the Vault content is an afterthought. It can be frustrating to go from watching a free bat rep of a 2,000 point game of 40k to a Vault video that is 1,000 points and half the duration of the previous bat rep. Have you considered more high point Vault videos, or perhaps Vault exclusive Apocalypse games? So what happens there is we always pair up our battle reports. And so we try to do 2 battle reports in a day, and what happens sometimes is we don't have as much time at the last part of the day, and so we end up doing smaller games. But I do agree that sometimes we need to switch that around, so that the smaller game is the free one and the longer game is the big one. But I'll tell you, just yesterday, I played a 2,000 point game of Imperial Guard versus Tyranids, and there was probably 300 models on the table at least. And it was spectacularly long, and it's a spectacular game. Went from, we started at 10 o'clock in the morning, went till 10 to 5 in the afternoon, and we took like a 20-minute lunch and a 5-minute break. It was huge, humongous. It's probably gonna be like an hour-and-a-half long battle report. That is a Vault video, and it was awesome. So I do agree. We do need to kind of switch that up a bit. Black Orc Down. Hi Matthew, probably been asked before, but who does the artwork on the walls in the sit and talk? These? I commissioned them so long ago I don't remember. If you send me an email, I could look it up and send you the link if you're interested in hiring them. Wardog389, yo Matt, what do you think about the new 40k Eternal Crusade that will be coming out in 2015? I don't even know what it is. An MMO third-person game for PC, Xbox One, PS4. Playable races are Marines, Chaos, Eldar, Orcs, Nids are the NPC that attack the strongest force in the server, according to the development team. What's your thoughts on it? Well, I'm not a big fan of MMOs, period. I think they, yeah, I just don't, and it's not even for the argument that they take up too much of a person's life, although that's a big part too, because I've put a lot of hours into other computer games that are single player, but it's because it forces you to have to kind of keep up, and most MMOs are designed in such a way that they're not fun until you've really upgraded, whereas a lot of single player role-playing games are fun right from the get-go. And of course you get super powerful and that's fun too, but I know like Skyrim, for example, the first 10 levels, leveling up from level 1 to 10 are superbly fun. Just getting the new loot, and they scale the enemies in such a way that you can still fight them and feel powerful. And then you get up to like level 20 or 30 and you're just like wielding awesome magic, or you're wearing awesome armor and weapons, and so you're super powerful, but that's kind of a different phase of the game. So you have fun in that first 10 levels, kind of tweaking your character and leveling up, and then you have fun in the later levels being really powerful. But in an MMO, a lot of times you just got to get to the higher levels before the game even starts, and that's what I really don't like. So it sucks at a lot of time without giving you the enjoyment. And I really like the single player RPGs. What I'd rather see is co-op multiplayer RPGs rather than MMO. That's what I'd like to see. I could see the appeal to MMOs, but just not my thing. So not interested. Like I'll watch some videos on it and kind of see what's up with it, but right now I'm not really interested. If that's all I know, obviously I'll look more into it. DM Thomas 7. Hi Matt, fellow Tyranid player here. My question is directed towards the Tyranid HQ slot. I believe the HQ slot is now missing a viable low points level HQ model. In the last Codex, the Prime was that model, as he could easily be brought for roughly 100 points and be a viable threat in an army. Now with the ridiculous base point increase and other general Codex nerfs, for example, Bone Swords or Scything Talons, the Prime is not even close to viable. I disagree with that. I've found the Prime to be quite good. In comparison, it is incredibly easy for many other armies to field an HQ choice for 100 to 150 points, instead of to field an HQ unit worth its points. The Tyranids are forced to take the Tyrants, which will most likely cost over 200 points, easily. I believe the Nids need that level of a model worth its points at 100 to 150 points. I agree and disagree. The reason I agree is because it would be nice to have a cheap one, but the reason I disagree is the Nids have access to a lot of low points models, like Gaunts, that are good, like the Termagants and Hormagaunts. And so you can, like, I played a game yesterday, it was 2,000 points. I brought a Hive Tyrant with Tyrant Guard, and he wasn't not upgraded, so there was a lot of points sunk into that. I brought a formation that had 3 Carnifexes, and I still had room for 75, 95, 115, 135 Gaunts. And they were endless swarm formations, so I actually ended up getting an extra 70 back throughout the course of the game. And that doesn't give away who wins the game, by the way. Not that it means that I lose. It was a very close game. It was awesome. So I would say that they're kind of balanced that way, that you can't just look at the one area in a vacuum. You can never look at that. You got to look at you have to look at what a 2,000 point list could do. And Tyranids can do a lot in 2,000 points. So yeah, it would be nice to have a cheaper HQ slot that's a viable threat, but what would be a viable threat for Tyranids, except for something that's super good in close combat and should have a higher points amount. So I'm not bothered by the points costs of anything in the Tyranids. So it's just because I could build a viable army with those. On a similar note, 6th edition Tyranids are one of the most massive blunders by Games Workshop. Multiple rules have been completely erased by the advent of 7th edition. Shadows is a joke now, as is multiple warlord traits, not that any of those were outstanding to begin with. The entire codex is a poorly tested, clunky book. It isn't unplayable, but it doesn't play like Tyranids should. Your thoughts on both topics? Not just trying to complain here, would enjoy the conversation. I agree and disagree once again. I agree because competitively you're right. They don't play the way they should. Because fluff-wise or lore-wise, it should be a lot of little guys with some big guys trouncing amongst them. But the best armies now are more medium to large-sized bases combined, and not as much of the small guys. But having said that, that's on a competitive level. If you play them in a fluffy, fun level against somebody who's willing not to bring cheese lists, like the game I played yesterday is a perfect example. I brought an army that you definitely would not take to a tournament, not only because it would take too long to play, but because it actually doesn't have an answer to a lot of problems. The game was tremendously fun. Tremendously fun. I've played Tyranids in narrative campaigns, tremendously fun. So if you're looking at it competitively, I totally agree. But if you're looking at it for fun, Tyranids have so many options. And then you throw in the data slates with the formations that give them even more options, and I love them. I absolutely love them. Yes, a lot of the rules kind of suck. Shadows on the Warp now, Turbogons, all these different things, although the one Apocalypse formation in the Valador book for Turbogons is ridiculous. But I still love them. It's still my favorite codex. Not the most competitive, but still my favorite. Octopus Prime. Hi Matt, I have a quick suggestion and 2 questions. I use Feedly, a blog newsreader, to keep track of many wargaming sites, 2 of which are mini wargaming and Beasts of War. I'm not a Vault or Backstage member for either right now, but I'm getting close. Last month, Warren on Beasts of War said you convinced him to do trial memberships for his site. Yeah, we had a Skype conversation about that. I thought I would point out something they do that almost has me signed up. When I subscribe to their site, I get updates on all the content they post, even the backstage things I don't have access to. While I don't get to see those videos, I'm continually reminded of the extra stuff I don't get to see, especially the hobby and painting videos. 2 recent backstage hobby content almost had me commit. It's just a matter of time. When I subscribe to your site, I get all the vlogs and non-member content, but none of the Vault stuff. Might be worth looking into ensuring the Vault updates and videos show up with the blog readers to remind people what they are missing. It could potentially help a lot of people like me who are close to signing up. Good suggestion. Question. One, since you lost your 3rd zone throw up, and just seeing 2 is driving me crazy. Did I ever have a 3rd zone throw up? I'm starting to wonder that now. Because I say I lost it, but I don't ever remember having 3. Maybe I did, but it's been so long. So did you actually see a video where I had 3? And I do need to get another one, you're right. Just seeing 2 is driving me crazy. When are you going to replace the lost one? You didn't mention replacing him in your big army showcase. It's true, I really need to get another one. 2, I feel the same way about Dark Eldar as you. I hate the fluff in the background. However, I love the rules, the way they play, and some of the models like the Razorwing, Venom, Reavers, and Incubi. I've been toying with the idea of playing Dark Eldar with Craft World Eldar allies as Exodites. For example, Talos equals Exodite Carnosaur, Wraith Lord equals Exodite Stegodon, Beastmasters and monsters equal Mounted Cold Ones, etc. Minus the background and over-the-top stuff, do you like the Dark Eldar playstyle and rules? Would you ever use the rules of Dark Eldar to represent another aesthetically different Count as army? It's hard because I'm so jaded by their lore that I've never really thought about whether I like their playstyle. And I've only played against Dark Eldar a few times, and each time it's been against my Tyranids where they've just managed to just kind of destroy me with their Venom spam and other stuff like that. So I haven't really particularly enjoyed playing against them. Does that mean that they couldn't be played in a way that'd be enjoyable? I don't know. I haven't experienced them that way, and so I really can't answer that question properly. Right now, I can tell you I'm just not interested in them whatsoever, and so I have no motivation to really see if I'd like them, especially because there's so many other armies to choose from. So that's kind of what I'd say right now. Narakuda. Hi Matt, first off, a belated happy birthday. Thank you. Hope you had an amazing day. I did. I got to work, and it was a really good birthday day overall. I have played Warhammer Fantasy for many years, but ever since I discovered mini wargaming, I've been wanting to get into 40k. I started up a Tyranid army after I saw the epic campaign you and Steve played, which also led me to become a Vault member. Awesome. My question is, what would your advice be for a budding Tyranid member? I have a small force already, but I'm looking to expand it. You know what I should create? I should create the Sit and Talk FAQ. Like literally, Sit and Talk FAQ. And it should be like this part of our website where I take the frequently asked questions in the Sit and Talks, and when somebody asks one, like, how do I start a Tyranid army? I should then have like this area where it's like, these are the answers. So I think I'm going to do that. I'll answer your question. To start a Tyranid army, you need Termagants, Hormagaunts, Hive Tyrant, Warriors, Primes, and then your choice of Hive Guard, Venomthropes, or Zoanthropes, and some Carnifexes. That's a good start. Oh, you're asking for advice, though. You're looking to expand it. There's a lot of advice that I could give. And just have fun. Don't try to play it competitively. You will be disappointed. But I should actually create that. I really should. Create the Sit and Talk FAQ, where I just answer, like, take those questions. I could even like, oh, I just found a way to make it even easier for me to do it. I could actually, like, when I get to a question, I can be like, okay, this will be a Sit and Talk FAQ. And then I'll actually take that part of the video and edit it out and make it, like, keep it in the Sit and Talk, but actually render it as a separate video, just a 5-minute video, and boom, I've got a Sit and Talk FAQ. Didn't have to do any extra work. I love things that get me more videos without having to do extra work. That's awesome. Maybe I should start doing that. But we're 47 minutes in right now, so I don't feel like doing it right now. I'm getting hungry too. It's like 11 o'clock. It's time for my snack soon. But that's a great idea, though, isn't it, Chris? Don't you think so?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. He always listens to me while I'm talking. He has no choice. He's right there, next office over. So I can always get his input. I think that was a brilliant idea. Good job. Yeah, it really is. Because there's actually a lot of questions that come up over and over again. And so I should have like a way to like record, okay, I'm 47 minutes in and I'm about to do an FAQ and actually do that. Hey, okay, you know what the heck? I'm gonna do my first Sit and Talk FAQ. Actually, no, hold on, not yet. So I gotta write down the time. It's gonna be at a little after 48 minutes. Okay, here we go. Our first Sit and Talk FAQ. Question is, I am starting a Tyranid army or have just started a Tyranid army. What do you suggest that I collect? Well, my answer to that would be, well, first off, I suggest you collect everything, because that's what I do when I collect. I like to collect all the models from every army. I'm a collector. When you look at the various aspects of the hobby, there's the collecting of the hobby, there's the assembling and converting. A lot of people get into the conversion stuff. There's scratch building, so they like to build their own models from scratch, or at least from a variety of their own parts and parts that Games Workshop or the other companies supply. And there's the painting aspect that a lot of people get into. And of course, there's the competitive plane of the game, and then there's the narrative plane of the game as well. So there's all these different things that you can really be into, and you don't have to be into all of them in order to enjoy it. I myself am into collecting, not assembling and painting and converting, or scratch building, basically all of the hands-on stuff. And I love playing, whether it's competitive or narrative, although narrative is by far my favorite. But I'm a collector, so I have to have everything in the army, even if it's not competitive. But if you're starting out an army, you need to kind of mix something that you want to collect and something that's competitive enough, because if you only have 1,000 points of an army, it needs to be competitive, otherwise it's not going to be that fun to play. And I always start competitive and then I branch out from there. So Tyranids, a good way to be competitive in a small army is if you're looking for Battleforge and you're using a combined armed detachment, then you use a Tyranid Prime as your HQ, and you bring a couple squads of warriors, preferably with bone swords and death spitters, and then you then you buy a bunch of Hormagaunts and Termagants. And then I would suggest tossing in a Tervagon in there, either as a troop choice with 30 Termagants or as another HQ. And then to support that, you need some elites. So a good starting elite choice is the Hive Guard or the Venomthropes, or both, depending on your budget. But Hive Guard and Venomthropes are really good to support. Venomthropes help support by giving Shrouded. Hive Guard helps support by kind of taking out that light to medium armor. And then fast attack you can kind of leave alone. There are some cool things in there like the Harpies and Hive Crones and Raveners and Gargoyles. Those are all good. And if you want to get any of those, of course, you can buy whatever you want. But if you're looking just to create competitive at first, I'd go to the heavy support slot. Definitely get a set of Biovores, 3 Biovores. And then either, this is where you kind of have a choice. You can do like Carnifexes because they're really effective, or you could do a Trigon Prime, or you could do a Tyrannofex. So I choose one of those 3. A brood of Carnifexes, between 1 and 3 Carnifexes. Your budget, once again, deciding how many. And then, or a Tyrannofex, or a Trigon Prime. Specifically Trigon Prime. The Tyrannofex would be the one with the acid spray. It's just the most effective out of all of them for most of the things that you're going to face. And that would be how to start your Tyranid army. End FAQ. So that ended around 51 minutes. There we go. I'm going to start doing that. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And my nose is itchy. I'm sorry. You have to see me scratch it. I do have allergies or something or other. But there we are. So, Martial Aid. Matt, thoughts on the new Orc Codex? I know none of you have their main armies as orcs, but I would imagine since you guys have 3,000 points of them, you will be buying the new Codex. Well, I have the new Codex, and I have read it. Overall, I think it's interesting. So, mob rule was changed in kind of a weird way, kind of a way that's annoying that you gotta look up a table. Although after a while, it's gonna become easier. Basically, if you have a mob of 10 or more, a 2+ is D3 strength 4 guys die. If there's a character in there. It's a little harder to remember. The ramshackle rule's gotten simpler, and I like that because it was kind of weird before. Red paint job is more clear because it lets you flat out 1 inch further, so it's not you just get 1 inch of extra movement, but does it still count as 6 inches of movement? Can they disembark if they move 7 inches? There are so many questions. They all get Here We Go, so they get to re-roll a die for the charge. And on the WOG, you get to run and charge. I think that's spectacular. And then they got access to new units, Gorkonauts and Morkonauts, and of course all the mech guns. So yeah, I like the change. I've only seen them played once, but it was fun. And there's the new detachment as well, which allows you to bring the huge orc horde. So does the Hammer of Wrath that good? Nah, not really, but it's cool that you can bring so many. So I like it overall. It seems like they changed a lot about the Codex and what inherently made them orky. I don't agree with that. I think that they seem very orky still. You can still bring lots of orc boys, and now they all have assault grenades automatically. Like, that's pretty awesome. Also, you've hinted at this, but I think you can really see a correlation between the narrative campaigns and a TV show. Just some thoughts. Think about plots, more character development. Is there going to be a climax? Some sort of early hook to grab the viewers, prologues and interludes. Lots of reoccurring TV shows have different strategies in writing to control their direction of their show. The thing about a TV show, though, is they totally control the story. And so while I see your point, and it's definitely good advice to kind of use their strategies and all that, we don't control how the story goes completely. Now, you could, in a narrative campaign, you could totally control it, and then the missions, you kind of just mold into that. But like the one that we're doing right now, I'm totally allowing the outcome of the missions to totally change the way the story goes. So I have no idea how this one's going to end. Like, not just like who's going to win, but literally how it's going to end. Like, what's going to be happening by later in the narrative campaign series. I have an idea of where it's going. I have a little list of cool things that I want to happen, but I don't have this set storyline. I've just kind of set the plot. It's almost like an open world thing at this point. It's like I've created the world, I've created the situation, and then it's like play, and let's see what happens. And it's really fun doing it that way. Especially because as the GM, I can kind of make whatever I want happen. So it's not like, and there's no fairness that we have to worry about it because it's just meant to be this fun story. Grimlock, Matt, if you're reading this on Friday, then it's my birthday today. Well, I'm doing this on Thursday, but you'll watch this on Friday, so happy birthday today. Not my today, your today. Unless you're not watching it the Friday, in which case, happy belated birthday today. Ewan Stockwell Duo 1177. I am literally using all my willpower not to swear or use caps during this comment, as you have mentioned the news of the distant, but not too distant Sisters of Battle campaign. I wasn't sure where that was going. So can I have a special request for you not to stockpile this one? And could I have a release date, please, so I can count it down like a second Christmas? You may be thinking I'm overreacting, but there's literally no good Sisters of Battle's Adeptus Sororitas battle report. So hearing about an entire campaign's worth will cause me to instantly become a vault member. I hope it's a success and it doesn't go down the Matt Ward route. Sisters are fine. Grey Knights turned up. Grey Knight slaughtered the sisters to turn them into anti-corruption orbs. No more sisters. Love all the content and sorry for keeping you for so long, Ewan. He didn't actually start going all caps. I just escalated because I figured that's how he was feeling as he wrote that comment. Can you have a release date? No, definitely not. Because while I know we're going to be doing it, we don't even have the date scheduled yet when we're going to start doing it. We're probably going to be recording it in September. So you could expect it maybe October, but I really can't say. Ask me again late September and I'll have a better idea. Bob Joy. Hejsan Matt. Hello in Swedish. Hejsan. Sorry, I don't know how you're supposed to say that. Hejsan. Hejsan. Hello in Swedish. Try saying it. There, I tried saying it. Vault member from Sweden here. I love your site and all the videos you're putting out. I prefer mini wargaming over Beasts of War because you have easier voices to listen to. Oh, it's the Canadian accent. The campaigns are awesome. I'm looking forward to your next one. And on another note, now you've gone and done it. Me and my girlfriend started watching the Dreadball League and fell totally in love with it. We have played one game so far and she won by a landslide in Rush 5, with me being an Orcs and Goblin team. On to my question, which is your favorite Dreadball team and why? Well, I think not the dwarves. They're on, it's the 4 season 1 ones. The dwarves are on the bottom. The orcs and goblins are probably next. The humans and rats, the humans and the Veermen, or the corporation of Veermen are probably my favorite. The Veermen are powerful because of their speed, but then they have their bad skill. In a campaign, they're really good because then you can start upgrading the guys. But the humans are fun because they have the ability to kind of do almost anything. So I think the humans, I think the corporation is my favorite. Frefforgula. Hey Matt, or Fragida. Oh right, the 4 is an A, right. Hey Matt, will you show us a picture of you from your high school days? I think somebody asked this in the last one. No. I don't even know if I have any, to be honest. Necronomicon. Hey Matt, are you familiar with any of the less prevalent Xenos races from 40k like the Rakgul or the Hrud? No. I know there's the one Centaur race that the Tyranids had brought in, but they got killed, thankfully, because it's a Centaur race. Your guess is as good as mine on how to pronounce that first one. I wish that they would be somehow added into the game, but don't see a practical way it could be done. Maybe a Space Hulk type game featuring them as a villain? Oh well, we can only dream. Keep up the great work, guys. Well, they could be added by being added to an existing army, like that Centaur race could be added to the Tyranids as some sort of special thing with a supplement for it. Like the Tau subjugate races all the time, so you got the Kroot and the Vespids, is that what they're called? The flying ones, I can't remember. So that's examples of other Xenos races, because the Tau's amalgamation of those. So they could subjugate another race and they could get one box set of them and that's it. So there's no reason that they couldn't have that. The Dark Eldar have slaves, so they could always add them there. There's lots of reasons for several of the races. Tau mainly, because Tau are not about, because Imperium would have a hard time with that because they exterminate Xenos, or they want to. Tyranids eat everything. So it's more like they'll create a race or models that kind of resemble something they ate, but still not those things. Like Gene Stealers are supposed to be like the humans, and Zoanthropes are kind of like the Eldar adaptation or whatever. But the Tau are probably your best area for that, because they subjugate races. They have no problem with Xenos races. They think they all should be their slaves. Or, sorry, not even their slaves. They think they should all be part of their empire. So you could easily add more there. That would be the easiest way to do it. Necronomicon. I didn't realize that Canada had a 4th of July type holiday. Is it celebrated the same way? Fireworks, barbecues, patriotic decorations, etc. Yeah. I don't know if it's as... it's a big deal, but I don't know if you could say it's as big a deal as the 4th of July. But yeah, it's a big deal. Here's a question for you. How many countries have a 4th of July? Any answers from around here? How many countries in the world have a 4th of July?
Oh, every one of them.
Every one of them. Thank you.
Because there's a 4th of July.
And the 4th of July and everywhere. Ha ha ha. And that is that's the answer. But there's actually, I think France, I think they celebrate their Independence Day or whatever on the 4th of July as well. I think there's actually 2 or 3 countries that they celebrate their nation's whatever day on the 4th of July. Well, yeah, because they don't call it Independence Day necessarily. They might call it, I don't know, something in French. Some sort of French word. Which is nothing wrong with. I do speak French somewhat. And I just played against a French player from Quebec yesterday. It was fun. So nothing wrong with French, that's for sure. I think I even have French in my ancestry. More English and Scottish and Irish and all that stuff, but I think there's some French in there too. I think if you're English, you automatically have French in your ancestry, because they've battled so many times, and one's occupied the other back and forth so many times that it's bound to be everybody.
Bastille Day, 14th of July.
14th of July?
Yeah,
Bastille Day? Oh. Well, I thought it was the 4th of July. Maybe 14th is why I was thinking they had 4th. Well, whatever. Right. Oh, we're over time. Let me do one more. Chris Waters. Hi, Matt. Something to think about. Tyranids would not need faster than light travel in order to exist. It would just take longer for them to spread. Studies into the Fermi paradox estimate that a civilization only slightly more advanced than we are now could fully colonize our galaxy in 5 to 50 million years. Yeah, I've heard that kind of thing where they talk about levels of civilization and how long it takes to achieve each level. That is certainly a longer time scale than we are used to thinking about, but it is still a tiny fraction of the history of the Earth or of the universe in general. Once you start thinking about those timescales, even the distance between galaxies is manageable at slower than light speeds. A civilization capable of traveling at 10% of the speed of light could have completely colonized all 3 major galaxies in the local group, Milky Way, Andromeda, and Triangulum, during the time since the dinosaurs were wiped out. That's actually really fascinating. On top of that, you get the fact that you have the special relativity, that if they are traveling like 90% or 95 or 99% the speed of light, as much as it would still take them a long time to cross the galaxies, to them a lot less time would have passed. So to the civilization, they wouldn't care about all the other people aging faster than them, because their civilization would still age slower. And so within a lifetime, you could actually do intergalactic travel. Ender's Game, all the books in the Ender's Game series, does a really good job of creating a science fiction universe that doesn't have faster than light. Now, mind you, it does come in later, but the entire, like, so much of the human race has spread at sublight speeds. Usually they go like 99 point something percent the speed of light. And so you get this huge time dilation effect, but they have colonized all sorts of worlds, because when you go 99.999% the speed of light, it might take you like 50 years to get to a nearby star system, but to you, only a few weeks has passed. And so to you, it's totally an easy voyage to make. And he's even, Orson Scott Card has even kind of created the universe in such a way, wow, it all of a sudden got cold in here. Air conditioner just turned on. But he created the universe in such a way that he's even incorporated that into how the politics of the worlds happen. Although they do have faster than light communication using ansibles, which basically is the whole idea of entangled particles and everything. So they do have that. Because without faster than light communication, then you could not maintain any set level of order amongst more than one world, because it would take you your light speed radio waves. If you could actually get radio waves from one planet to another, would take 50 years or 100 years or 1,000 years to get there, and obviously it would be old information by the time it got there. So, but you're right, they don't need faster than light travel in order to actually be able to colonize all the galaxies. So, and if they're traveling fast, close to the speed of light, then the time relatively is slow to them to get there. It still takes enormous amounts of energy, but hey, it's science fiction. They can have some sort of fusion or dark matter or some tesseract vault stuck inside of the back of the Tyranid ships that lets them have infinite amount of power tapped into another dimension and dark energy, right? I just watched The Avengers last night again, so it's what's in my head right now. So yeah, but you're right, it totally would work. Makes them less of a threat because it gives humans more time, but it could also mean that there's like so many more of them and that they're just going to, over time, in the next million years, slowly descend and consume the entire galaxy, and you don't really have any choice because it's just that many of them. Thank you very much for watching the Sit and Talk. Stay tuned for more Sit and Talks every week. And if you want to leave your comments and questions, go ahead and do so at the link below, or in the comments below. Unless you're watching this on YouTube, then click the link and go leave them there. This is Matthew from Mini Wargaming. Thanks for watching, and happy wargaming.